Hey guys, it's Steve. I want to give you a quick heads up as we jump into this week's podcast. We had a little, or I had a little bit of a mic malfunction, so my mic is not the best in this show, but I think you're going to really enjoy it. It's with four amazing friends who started their own podcast over at Off Harbor in Maine: Beth, Joel, Derek, and Matt. And we're going to touch on a little bit different topics. So once again, I hope you enjoy this show. Amazing group of friends and a fun podcast. So as they say, sit back, relax, and now on with the show. Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, your podcast helping your family cruise a little smarter when the ship starts sailing. And I'd like to welcome back to the show our co-host all the way down in the LA area. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Doing pretty good. You're always finding a new way to describe where I'm at. This week it's the LA area.
the LA Metroplex or something.
Yeah, I'm in the Los Angeles metropolitan area, Burbank. Yeah, but it's good. We got rain this week, Steve. That's a big deal in California.
You know, it's been sunny up here. So we took your weather, you got our weather, and it's been amazing. Let me tell you.
We love rain. Well, I think actually some people in Southern California freak out about it, but having grown up, born and raised, I cherish rainy days because they're so few and far between.
Yeah. So we are burning the midnight oil tonight. We are like way late compared to what we normally are. Christy's in bed. She's been in bed for like 6 hours now.
7 hours, maybe 12. Who knows?
Something like that. But hey, did you know that they're starting this Touch of Disney thing down there in Disneyland?
Yeah. I'm going.
Yeah. And so, you know, one of the things I'm really looking forward to is the balloons.
We have a dad joke coming. Okay, you're looking forward to the balloons. Tell us more.
Yeah, but you know why you should never give Elsa a balloon?
Okay, because she'll let it go.
Oh, you got me tonight.
All right. Yeah, that was a dad joke. I should have prepared one. I'm trying to get you back with millennial level dad jokes.
I know.
But I didn't prepare one.
We got this Pirates of the Caribbean thing going back and forth with dad jokes. But you know what? Let's invite our guests in. This is a group who have started their own podcast. They've been going at it a year. We were talking about it beforehand, kind of like us with the cruise line shutting down. They started their podcast about theme parks right as the theme parks were shutting down. But they have an amazing podcast, and they caught my ear probably about 6 months ago. And I'm really excited to bring. There's four of you, so I'm not sure how to do this all at once because we've never done this before. But I'd like to welcome to the show the hosts of the Off Harbor in Maine podcast, Beth, Joel, Derek, and Matt. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I guess it's easy for us because we're all kind of looking at each other, but this is going to be an audio podcast. But before I got a little twist on your guys' show when you start off normally, but let's just kind of jump in. And if you guys would introduce each one of yourselves, talk a little bit about how you got into Disney and your Disney fandom. And I'd really want to know how you guys all met to start this podcast. But let's just jump it off and start with you, Joel.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. And again, thanks for having us on. We're really excited about this. Real quick, though, Steve, I wanted to ask, did you hear the latest trend is installing trampolines on cruise ships?
No, I did not hear that.
Yeah, it's because everyone's jumping on board.
Dad joke.
Wow. I'm struggling with jokes today, so you have to put up with this one-liner.
Touche. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, I had to do it.
We got twin dad jokes.
Yes, right, Joel, what got you into Disney?
Well, you know, I grew up in NorCal. I grew up around Sacramento area, and I feel like I had a typical childhood and grew up going to Disneyland every few years, maybe go to Disney World as a one-off. But I didn't go that often, but I definitely loved it as a kid. And, you know, you kind of build this really kind of a fandom for it by not being so close to it. It's always a big thing when you go to Disneyland. So for us and for my family, it was a big deal when we got to go down. Even though it's in Northern California, it's not that far away, but it's not like you can just jump on over there. It's still a 7-hour drive. Grew up with going to Disneyland every once in a while, and then when I was probably a teenager, I was too cool for it. I feel like I didn't want to tell my friends I was into Disney. And so I kind of started to go away with it. And I've told this story on our podcast. I think it's kind of funny. There's this fireworks show that was very popular debuted in the early 2000s, and it was Believe There's Magic in the Stars. Right? Maybe you've seen it. But it was one of those shows that one of my good friends in high school, he would make fun of it during lunchtime. He just like would come back from Disneyland and they'll make fun of because they would believe, and kind of teasing the show. And they were doing it out of love, actually. And I ended up seeing that show with him. And it was kind of that show that I think turned it for me and really made me, as cheesy and cliche as it sounds, made me like understand the magic or believe in the magic, as dumb as that sounds. And it was something that made me understand, like, wow, look at this fireworks show that, I was just expecting fireworks, that I didn't even know about synchronized fireworks. And then seeing that, and then seeing it with a storyline, and it was a tearjerker, and then it made me understand what the magic is and why people love Disney so much. So that was my turning point. And then I actually ended up moving down to Southern California to kind of pursue a career with Disney. And I went to college down here, worked at Disneyland for a little while, and then moved on. But yeah, that's my story.
I love it. We were just talking right before we started recording. You asked about whether we were, beyond Disney Cruise Line fans and everything like that. And I think it hit me too, as we were down at Disneyland in 2013 with our kids at Christmas time, and with them the first time, and seeing that fireworks show. And Chris has talked about it on our show, when it's that one firework that goes across at the end. And there was something about just put like chills up my wife and my back. And we've never looked back since then. That was when the magic really bit us, I guess. So I love your story there, Joel. How about you, Beth?
So both of my parents actually were born and raised in Southern California, but after they got married, they moved up to the Pacific Northwest, which was where I was born. So we would kind of always do the Disneyland thing on our rare visits down to Southern California to visit family. So I kind of was interested then, but more just like as your typical, oh, I'm a kid, it's Disneyland type thing. Sort of the opposite of Joel. In my teen years, my dad started working for an airline. And so we had flight benefits, and I got an annual pass for my birthday. And so trips became a lot more common. We'd go down on a weekend and stay with family and go to the parks. And that's when I really started to get into it. And it was right when Indiana Jones opened, and my mind was blown. I was like, this is amazing. So that's kind of where I started getting that bug, and that like, I have to learn more about this and like see how they do things. And that's kind of where I started finding discussion boards, which kind of led to me getting a job at the airline as well once I graduated from high school. So I just kept on flying down and renewing my annual pass. And literally I worked at the airline just so I could go to Disneyland. So I'm like, well, this is dumb. I don't like the rain anyways. I'm just going to move down there. And so that's what I did. So I moved down, and my career I worked at Disneyland for 6 months, but my career took me elsewhere also. So, but that's kind of where it started for me. And I still love it. Like, I can't wait to get back.
Well, one, I don't know how you all met, which I'm curious about.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, okay.
Hold it back. We still got to get Derek and Matt.
Okay, get them in.
Okay, let's get them in, and I'll ask how everybody met.
Okay, all right. Well, I love that story as well. Which airline did you work for, if you don't mind?
I worked for Horizon Air, and then Alaska, which was their parent company.
Okay, well, that's
Steve doesn't know anything about.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So maybe we ran into each other at some point.
We might have.
Yeah. How about you, Derek? How did you get into, where did your Disney fandom come from?
I go way back. Growing up as a kid, I was such a Disney nerd. But before I get into my story, I do have a really important question for you guys as well. And that is, what do you call a nosy pepper?
I don't know.
Jalapeno business.
Oh, so nosy. Okay.
I'm not a dad, but I tried. So.
You have 2 cats.
There you go.
Well, that goes good. We had Mexican food tonight, so I appreciate that one.
Oh, thanks. I try. But so for myself, I was a Disney nerd growing up. I took pride in learning about all the Disney animated movies. I had a whole collection of those VHS movies when we still had VHS movies. I was an 80s kid. So, back in the day, I don't know if people remember, but Disney Channel used to be a premium network. So I forced my parents to pay for it so that I could watch all the Disney shows and, got my fix that way. And, a nerd moment for me, too, is growing up, I used to fantasize, because I'm, SoCal native, West Coast Disney for me all the way. I always dreamed about going to Disney World, so I used to order the the travel videos, where you can kind of call 1407 W Disney or whatever that number was and order your travel video, and it'll explain all the different resorts and all the different attractions. And I really geeked out watching that, thinking one day I'd be able to go to Disney World. I've actually only been to Disney World 3 times in my life, twice as a kid, and then I had like about a over 20-year break in between, which is pretty embarrassing to admit. But the last time I was there was in 2018, and that was with 2 of the 3 of our group here, Joel.
It's okay, just say it wasn't me.
Well, I was thinking about that the whole time. But one of our other good friends, Braden, came along too, and it was like the best experience of my life. So I can't wait to go back when things get back to normal again. But just overall, I'm just, Disney geek at heart. I love learning about new Disney projects. One day I'll hopefully get to Disney Sea. That's my ultimate dream Disney vacation. Of course, we'll get into how we all met here too, but these are some of my lifelong Disney friends that I'm just so happy to have in my life, and then now to meet you guys. So great new connections. That's
what's kind of cool about the Disney community that we've found, right, Chris? Is just, I think people are so outgoing generally, and it's been a lot of fun with our podcast being able to meet so many different people. So it's cool that you guys as a group of friends can do this together, and then it just expands so many more horizons beyond that as well. So how about you, Matt?
Well, I was born and raised here in SoCal. I've always lived at least 30 minutes from Disneyland. Naturally, we went all the time when I was a kid. I've always had a huge fascination for theme parks and all that kind of stuff, but I know there's a few really memorable moments that I remember from Disneyland that definitely solidified my fandom for it. One of them was Fantasmic. I remember when I saw that when I was a kid for the first time, to the point where when we came home, me and my sister were playing in the pool, and we'd have the hose under the water, and we'd be doing the fountains and stuff, and humming the music. We also went for Indiana Jones when it first opened. We waited 4 hours. So 4 hours as a 9-year-old, that's killer. I mean, good, kudos to my parents for waiting in line with us for that long. So I've always had a thing for it. Kind of like Joel in the late 90s, when I started, hitting this teenage years, we were more into Knott's and Six Flags when they started putting in all the big attractions. Early, I want to say 2001, I got one of my first annual passes, and that's kind of when I hit the ground running again. And if it wasn't because of the pandemic, I would have almost had my pass for 20 years straight. But obviously the world had other ideas. So.
I don't know what you're talking about. You're a legacy pass holder.
Forever ingrained.
Exactly.
We could do a whole podcast on that one probably, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, I've always been obsessed with it. And like I said, we'll talk about when we met these guys, but it's just, this is a great outlet for us too, just because it's something we always talk about anyways. So why not record it and let people hear it? Yeah.
On a podcast.
Yep, exactly.
It's amazing. So I'm curious, how did the 4 of you get linked up together? Can you tell me that story?
Well, it all started
with the mouse.
Go for it, Beth.
Oh, okay.
Once upon a time.
Well, message boards were a really big thing back in the early 2000s. And
before Twitter.
Yeah, back in the day. So that's we all met on various discussion boards. And me personally, ended up meeting each person here on the podcast in person at some point during 2003, which is when I actually ended up moving to California. So we all kind of physically met in person in 2003, even though we'd kind of been chatting off and on discussion boards before then. And I mean, honestly, it really just stuck. And I mean, these people have been in my wedding, and, we've been there for each other through all of life's up and downs. And it's all because we liked Disney and started chatting on a Disney discussion board back in the early 2000s.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that is a modern, and yet also technology moves so fast that
I know it sounds so
that it feels
now.
Old as well. Yeah, it's we met in a chat room, but that's amazing. And now you're podcasting and getting to talk about something you're passionate about. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and almost 20 years later, we're still hanging out.
Still doing it.
So what turned the button to take that, friendship and turn it into a podcast to you guys?
Something we like to do is walk around California Adventure, DCA, and we'd walk around all the time with a beer in hand, and then we'd just be talking about Disney and stuff that's going on, and giving our opinions on stuff. And we're just like, well, would this be a great podcast idea? We'd love to talk about this. Or kind of like, I feel like Matt's what really grinds my gears, a Family Guy for our podcast, So he can really talk about like, oh, this is like really annoying me, and like we can be lighthearted or joke around. But we kind of took what we do in the parks and brought it just to the podcast platform. And we've talked about it for so many years, probably 5+ years. And we always say, oh, we're going to do it. And then finally, when the pandemic started, or right before, I was really, really thinking about it. Pandemic started. I'm like, here's the opportunity. We got to do it. Obviously, everybody else probably did that too. It's a very saturated market for a podcast, but we really enjoy doing this. And it's a good way to stay in touch.
It is kind of saturated, but I think the one thing that distinguishes you guys, is one, you've got that kind of West Coast focus, which there's just not a lot of West Coast, people that talk about Disneyland, Disney California Adventure, parks that I know is probably near and dear to Chris's and my heart. So we love that aspect. But the other thing that I think really comes out with your guys' show is that you guys really are all friends. I mean, that comes across. I can tell you that right from the get-go. So I think that's a genuineness that I think a lot of people kind of look for when they're looking for a podcast, along with like good information and quality entertainment.
Yeah, it's a huge difference from our podcast because Steve and Christy and I hate each other. Absolutely can't stand talking to one another.
You should see our text line.
It was really important for us for us to do this, we had to kind of just stay true to ourselves, and we're kind of no holds barred. We don't kind of hold back. So we do just really talk. I mean, how you hear us on our podcast is how we are in real life, and that just was really important for us to portray.
No, that's awesome. Well, one of the things that I enjoy about your guys' podcast, we'll kind of jump into our show a little bit, and I'm really excited to talk about the topic. But before we get to that, is you guys kind of start off with your drink of the night, and now I'm totally drawing a blank. Is it on the Tiki, what terrace? The
virtual tropical lanai.
The virtual tropical lanai. So instead of running just with what you guys do, what I want to know is, can we go around and talk about maybe what your favorite drink is tonight? But where would you have that drink if you were at the Disneyland Resort? So I'm going to put
and
Chris
everything was open.
Yeah, everything was open. You don't have to be hiding from the cops or anything like that. But I'm going to start with you, Chris. Where are you going and what are you drinking?
So since we're going the entire Disneyland Resort, I will one-up you and pick a time of year and say during Christmas.
Oh, loving it already.
The lobby of the Grand Californian has like a gingerbread, hot chocolate. You can get it spiked, little like thing set up in the corner. And I would buy a drink there and then take it over to the giant fireplace and sit there with a group of friends and just relax and take a break before going back into the parks for fireworks.
Chris, we're done. That's exactly where all of us want to be. That's it.
That with the live music there too. I always love the carolers. So how about you, Matt? Well, let's go backwards now. We got to you at the end. How about you, Matt?
Well, so for drinks, I think we all kind of went with a theme tonight. We decided to kind of cross over into your guys' territory, and we picked a drink that they feature on the Disney Cruise Line. All four of us made a different drink. I found a drink that I saw was one of the rotating daily specials. It's called the High Tide. And it's Malibu, amaretto, pineapple, and cranberry. And it's quite tasty. I really enjoy it.
Do you like amaretto flavor?
I do, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Great daily drink.
I mean, if I had to have this drink somewhere in the parks right now, I'd have to say it's a toss-up. It's either going to be Sonoma Terrace in California Adventure. I'm honestly leaning more towards the Hearthstone fireplace outside. I love that spot. I've had a lot of good time there.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
And that's outside of the Hearthstone Lounge at the Grand Californian, right? For people that aren't familiar, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, how about you, Derek?
Yeah, so I was really excited that we went with this Disney Cruise Line theme, in honor of you guys tonight. And so I picked what's called the Berryosca. It's a summery drink. I thought it was pretty appropriate since the time's changing. Days are longer. I know we're doing an audio podcast, but just to show you guys, it's actually really pretty with muddled blueberries and lime and some sweet sugar in it. And it's actually really, really delicious and refreshing as well. So I'm enjoying it.
I am shook right now. You all, these are not just like virtual imaginary cocktails. You're drinking these actual drinks. Steve and I are sitting here with bottled water.
I actually made one tonight, Chris, so.
Well, maybe I should do my homework and listen better to understand. Is this like a tradition of your podcast that you always drink the actual drink?
Yes. So we go around, we actually have a drink on our podcast.
Okay.
The goal was to get drunk, but that just never
I was going to say, sometimes by the end of the podcast, you can tell it was a real drink.
All right, where are we going next? How about you, Beth?
I actually went a little bit simple, though it is still from the cruise line. I had the Icy Pop cocktail, which is from Pink on the Disney Dream. So it's basically champagne with a ice pop in it. It was a frozen 2 ice pop. It has since melted, so now all you can see is my popsicle stick, but it is delicious. A little champagne, a little bubbly, and a little popsicle. So it was very good. I imagine it'd be very refreshing. I was going to say the Hearthstone because but everyone said that already. But so for me, honestly, I think I would really just like to be walking around Paradise Pier with my beer in hand.
Pier.
Pixar Pier. Wah, wah. And honestly, just talking with all my friends because I really miss doing that. And you know what? Zoom is just not quite the same. I mean, it's close. I'll take it. I'll take it since it's what I can get right now. But I just want to see these guys in person. So I would really like to just be at DCA with I would not be picky, any drink in hand. Probably the Red Trolley Ale from the Pacific Wharf, if I'm going to be real specific. And just like walking around and talking about all the new stuff that's going on and just soaking it all in.
You twist my arm with a beer from the Red Trolley there. I love that. So, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. How about you, Joel?
I decided to go tropical tonight, and I went with the Castaway Key Conch Cooler, just because I have most of those ingredients already at home. So that's dark rum, some light rum, some passion fruit juice. I have this passion fruit syrup that's like amazing, and a pina colada mix. I just used some coconut puree I had, and some OJ, and shake it up over some ice, and it is delicious, and I'm very happy with it. So I'll be making this more often, but just pretending I'm on the beach at Castaway Key right now, and yeah.
Because you're the only one of this group who has been on the beach at Castaway Key. Is
true.
That true?
It's true. Yeah.
Okay, so
however, I was 13, so this is like 98.
So you had a virgin.
Yes, I was not drinking then. No.
Okay. I hear you.
If I was to be drinking this somewhere at the Disneyland Resort, I would definitely be. I normally would pick the Hearthstone, but since that's already been said, I gotta go with. It's a little hidden gem. It's the Napa Rose patio. It's a Napa Rose, which is a really nice restaurant in the Grand Californian. There is a patio there that not a lot of people know about, and I'm even hesitant to talk about it on here. But you can just usually, I don't know, it's going to be like post-pandemic, but you can go right out to that patio. There's a fireplace out there. You can see the walkway right in front of Grizzly River Run and the entrance into Grand California from the park side. And it's very quaint. It's nice. It doesn't sit a lot of people, and you can get the full menu there. But it's great just to get some cocktails, and then they give you kind of bread service. Wouldn't mind being there right now.
I feel like you just spoiled some big secret because I didn't know about that place, and I know about Disneyland. So interesting. Gonna put that on the list.
I'm trying to think I've walked through that entrance so many times, and I've seen the big windows that look into there, but I've never seen.
Yeah, I can't even picture what you're describing. So I'm excited to
right
explore
next to it. Right when you so let's say you go into Grand California.
Stop talking, Joel.
We'll cut this part out.
We won't let anybody know about it.
No one can know about it. I'm picking Sonoma Terrace. Yeah, no, but when you go right into California Adventure and to your left, if you're going in from the Grand California, if you look directly to your left, it's kind of hidden now because the vegetation has grown in, but there's a small little patch right there. There's another patio further down that's where for the restaurant that's a little bit bigger and probably more people kind of see, but it's actually this small little hidden thing just off to the left right when you enter.
All right,
cool.
Steve, because you've been calling on everybody. It's my turn to call on you. What are you drinking in that mug? And also, where in the Disneyland Resort would you drink it?
So you guys are probably going to make fun of me on the where, but normally I'm a beer guy. But today I thought I'd mix it up and do something a little bit different, since you guys always have these like amazing mixed drinks on there. And I did something as talented as I could be, and I did a Moscow Mule, which
That's good.
Oh, that is so talent. Okay,
yeah.
and where are you
It's pretty
drinking?
simple. But so this is not a place that I think is going to stand out in anybody's head necessarily, but I actually kind of like it. We've had the opportunity to stay at the Disneyland Hotel several times. And my wife and I have been down several times when the kids were out at the pool over to the bar at Steakhouse 55. And there's not like a great ambience to it or anything like that, but there's something about it I know that just stands out for us, that we love sitting there having a drink in the afternoon after spending the day in the parks before we go back in and see the fireworks. And so I'm going to hang out in Steakhouse 55 tonight with my Moscow Mule.
That's a good spot. And it does have a good vibe there. It's very classic and kind of almost retro, if you will. It's just a classy little spot. I like that.
If you drink enough, you can get your picture taken in the Autopia card that's sitting out there as well. Too,
We've all done that, yeah.
Wait, they link it to how much you drink?
No.
Okay.
2 drink minimum.
Then you can get your picture taken. Okay, I mean, true to form, none of us picked a spot in Disneyland because you can't drink alcohol in Disneyland. Unless some of us are secretly, what do you call it? D23 members?
Club 33.
Club 33, that's what it is. Unless any of us are secretly Club 33 members, then there are not many places in Disneyland that you can drink alcohol except for Batuu, which is not really in Disneyland, right? It's a planet off.
It's far, far away.
Yeah.
Very far away. But cool. Okay, so now everyone's drinking except for me. That's great. I'll have my imaginary hot chocolate at Christmas. Steve made me go first, and I clearly didn't understand the assignment, but it's fine.
Well, it's like par for the course, right? I put together all this stuff and I send it to Chris, and we get halfway through and he goes, "Now wait, what was there
What are you
an
talking
agenda
about?"
for tonight? I don't know." Well, let's kind of flip it and head into like our main topic. I was really excited to see the 2 shows that you put together in episodes 21 and 22 of your guys' podcast, and I don't know if one of you has if you guys all are interested in the subject or not, or somebody has one of you guys has a main interest in it, but it does have a cruise line reference. And I think it's something that a lot of people probably that have sailed with Disney Cruise Line don't know the backstory to. So I thought we kind of do I don't want to give away your show because you guys did so much work with it. I want people to go over there and listen to the majority of that. But we are going to talk about the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which I think is kind of a hidden gem in the Disney lore of things. And I'm really excited. We'll get into this at the end here about what might be coming on Disney Plus. But was one of you guys a huge Sea fan, or how did you guys decide to do that podcast?
I think all of us are really intrigued by Sea, and all of us really just are fascinated by it and think there's a huge opportunity with having this in the parks. And it's convoluted. It's quite a backstory, and I guess we can get into kind of what Sea is, but I think we all like it a lot.
We did. It's a big, broad topic. So for our show, we literally kind of just quartered it and said, okay, everyone research your own thing, because there's so much covering all the parks and the cruise lines that it was a beast to tackle, but definitely worth it in the end.
I definitely liked it because I like things that tie into each other. I love when there's pieces of other things hidden. It's I guess I would kind of describe it. It's kind of like the MCU of the Disney theme parks. Everything kind of just melds together in one big story, and I love that kind of stuff. So I've always been really interested in it.
I'm the same with Matt. It's just so layered, and there's just so much detail and thought put behind it, especially how it originated from Disney Sea, and there's so much detail and thought put into that place anyway. But to have this whole backstory on top of it is just so interesting and so intriguing, and there's so many possibilities to it given all the different characters that they've integrated,
And I think it's really good that we started to look at this now, as we mentioned on the podcast, because I have a feeling, especially with, and we're going to get to it, the Disney Plus show that's coming, it's going to get even more complex, I think, and very expansive. So it's I think it's important that, or good that we're kind of looking at this now and kind of understanding the basis of it before it gets too crazy, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where it'd be hard to go back and understand it all now if you just started to get into Marvel.
Chris, are you a fan of C, or is this something that you've paid attention to?
Only vaguely. I will admit, when I first heard about it, and this is, maybe I'm so off base here, so you can tell me, but my understanding is that there's like a place in the Magic Kingdom in Adventureland that's like got a ton of references to this C, right? Like a restaurant, maybe it is, or a table service, or I don't know. And there's like hidden libraries and bookcases and I don't know, random themes. That was literally the first time I had ever really heard about this, is like they were like the Society of, what is it, Explorers
and Adventurers.
And they were talking about it like it was this established lore, but being like a lifelong Disneyland fan, it was lore I had never heard of. So I was like, what are you talking about? That's not a thing.
Well,
and that's literally how I felt. And then Steve was like, you know, hey, Chris, we're going to do this podcast episode and we're going to talk about C. Is that anything you're interested in? And I was like, you know, I'm not even going to research it because I feel like I need to be the person with the fresh ears who's like, what? Because truly I don't understand. Like, I'm like, what I believe it is, you could tell me if I'm wrong, is that the Imagineers have created a backstory to explain restaurants, attractions, storylines, things like that. And they're trying to interweave them together.
Perfect.
So that's what I believe it is. But if you tell me that it's not that, I would also believe you.
Yeah.
Well,
That's a perfect explanation of what it is, really.
Yeah. And coming from California, honestly, there was not much in the way of any sort of C references until about 2017 anyways. So it's not surprising.
Well, that would explain it.
Yeah,
all.
it's not
Okay,
surprising.
It's still new.
I felt like a bad Disney fan when Steve was pitching this to me, because I was like, but now I'm getting it. Okay. Can someone, maybe we're skipping ahead, but can someone tell me what the Disneyland C references are?
Yeah. So, well, I'll talk about it a little bit. So basically, in 2017, when they started the Project Stardust to take over all the shops in Adventureland to provide more seating for like the Bengal barbecue area and for Hideaway. What's it called?
Tropical Hideaway.
Tropical Hideaway. Thank you. I was going to say Hideaway Castaway. Like, that's not right. Tropical Hideaway. They started adding some sea references there. So there are sea references over in the Tropical Hideaway area. There's actually a bunch of oars that list the members of sea and their different expeditions they've been on. And then over in the Bengal barbecue area, they have just a bunch of little pictures of people who have been in sea. It's all very much in the background. If you're not looking for it, you're probably not going to see it, but it's all kind of there to tell the story. They have, for example, they had a photo of Humphrey Bogart and Audrey Hepburn from The African Queen, because that's what was inspired by Jungle Cruise was inspired by that movie. So they have a photo from that movie, but they actually have Albert the monkey, who is a character in C, on the boat with them that they photoshopped in there just to kind of add layers to it. Even though there's nothing that's blatantly says this is C, you can just kind of see those references sprinkled throughout that whole area.
But you see, Chris, that's where, because we're jumping ahead, because really Disneyland doesn't have it yet. I mean, they have a couple of small references that are exciting for us to see, but for those that don't know C or what it is, they won't even notice. And I really think C is really, it's something that's meant to be kind of background. It's not going to be something really front and heavy. Maybe a show that's coming in the future will help bring it to the front for everybody to see. But I feel like this whole fictitious organization was kind of created, and all this lore and backstory was kind of made for people like us that like to go and look at every nitty gritty, where your casual Disney fan may not be looking for those type of things. They're going to go on Big Thunder Mountain and go, oh, this is just some crazy wild ride, and not understand, because it's in Florida, they have a they've added a backstory with Barnabas T. Bullion. I can't ever say his name right.
Bullion, yeah.
Bullion, who's based off of famous Imagineer Tony Baxter. But it's something that it's written into place now, and now it has a bigger backstory. But if you're just going to go on, you want to go on a roller coaster, you may not be looking for that stuff. But that's what separates Disney from the rest, right? They add these really involved, deep backstories, and all these big details that you may not find at another amusement park or theme park.
Yeah, and as like a diehard Disney fan, I think that's obviously the secret sauce, but it's interesting that there's an ingredient in the secret sauce that I've never really paid attention to. Though I feel a little better because the things that you're saying are things that I truly would never look for. So I'm like, okay, well, I miss the oars at Tropical Hideaway. That being said, though, with the reimagineering of the Jungle Cruise and with sort of you mentioned Project Stardust as a way to like Disney's sort of like, for those of you who don't know, Project Stardust was Disneyland trying to prepare for the massive crowds that Star Wars Land was supposed to bring. So they were part of it was just like refreshing the park, making more space, widening walkways, because unlike Florida, Disneyland was built before they knew that they would need walkways that were easily 3 times wider than they are. And so, there, and also unlike Florida, and I could talk a really long time about this, so I promise I won't. But one of the things I think that makes Disneyland so much more special than Disney World, I'm kidding, I don't want to get anyone upset, but
You're in a safe space.
Makes it very special, is that they have very limited space to work within. So every single thing has to be functioning and useful. And they're not just going to leave kind of like a not that great attraction if it's not being attended, because they need that space to increase attendance. And whereas at Disney World, they're like, well, we could build like 20 more Magic Kingdoms. So it doesn't really matter if we leave X working thing there, because it's like, yeah, maybe not many people go to it, but, and then that causes Disney World to function off of this like nostalgia fuel of like people who are obsessed with the People Mover, or people who are like the Carousel of Progress, the longest running American stage show. And it's like that whole vibe at Disney World, which you would think would be the vibe at Disneyland because it's the older of the parks. But Disneyland's constantly updating and innovating every single ride and attraction, because if they don't refresh, then they're not making the most of the very limited land they have. So that's why I think Project Stardust is a big deal, even though it's basically probably over with in the sense that like they have bigger fish to fry with the pandemic. I do think that this is all very fascinating because I can see a trajectory ahead for attractions where they're going to be looking to draw more heavily on their own intellectual property and not so heavily on, I don't know, like movies,
movies, IPs,
yeah, because there's risk there, right? Because, you have things like Song of the South, which don't age well and people are not into. And so you end up having to rework it anyway. But if they were to sort of say, yeah, we're going to do something fresh and new and make it about what it is, I do feel like there's a certain timelessness there that they could really thrive on. So that's my 2 cents. But I'm very fascinated, as you could tell.
I think that was more like a silver dollar's worth of sense there, Chris.
I know, Steve. It's just very interesting.
A whole new world has been opened up to you here.
It really has.
So I don't want to oversimplify it, but I think what's kind of cool about Sea is it's kind of like the hidden Mickeys, where for those of you who want to play around with it, you can't kind of look at those as you're kind of going through the parks. And if you follow the backstory of Sea and how the characters and how they pertain to each one of the different rides and how they're interconnected, I think that is another thing, like you guys have all said, as far as super Disney fans, it kind of gives you like an added bonus when you go to the parks and experiences the different things. And I think what's cool is that they've actually brought it to the cruise line. And I meant to go back and find out who did Captain Mary Oceaneer, and I didn't go back and do it, but who covered her for your guys' podcast?
That was me.
Oh, perfect. So something probably a lot of people don't know. And since Joel's the only one that's been on the cruise ships, the Disney Magic and the Disney Wonder are the two oldest ones. The Magic was built in 1998 and started sailing then. And the Kids Club was named after is known as the Oceaneers Club. And that's something that I think most adults, as you drop them off, you're thinking Oceaneer, oh, well, that has something to do with the ocean because the ship's on the ocean. But there's really a backstory to it. So, Derek, why don't you run with it and tell us who Captain Mary Oceaneer is and a little bit of her backstory.
Awesome. Yeah, I am so glad to talk about her because I actually thought that she was probably one of the more interesting of the bunch of the characters of Sea, just because the aspects of where, she's placed for the Disney Cruise Line, there just seems to be like so much adventure and mystery, surrounding going out into the ocean and exploring. But so, of course, the Oceaneer Lab that we were just talking about is named after Mary Oceaneer, who is actually one of the original Sea leadership characters from 1899 is where they're placed in history, right? And so there's actually, is it in the Hightower Hotel or in the Mystic Manor where there's a photo or a portrait of all the original?
Mystic Manor.
Mystic Manor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's actually a really cool photo if you guys want to Google it that shows all of the different characters, including Mary Oceaneer. But so she was actually a sea captain, right? And so she was really into like the pirate lore and sunken treasure. She was very excited and eager to go out and explore, find different trinkets and, go all around the ocean to the point where not just with the Oceaneer Lab, but also she has references in places like Typhoon Lagoon. And so it's really interesting to see like how she developed. Apparently she had like a love for parrots. So she had two birds by the name of Salty and Duncan. I don't know whatever happened to Salty, it was her first bird, but then she had a replacement bird named Duncan. Yeah, so, given her love for the sea, she actually had an original ship called the RV Oceaneer Lab. Her maiden voyage on that ship disembarked on July 30, 1898, which I think is a tie into the sailing of the first Disney Cruise Line, right? Was it 1998?
Yeah, 1998.
Yeah. So that's kind of how it ties back into the whole timing of it all. A few fun facts about her that I had learned along the way is that she actually has a few trinkets that she kept, such as Scuttle's Snarfblat. Apparently, she was able to get her hands on the contract that Ariel signed with Ursula, which is pretty interesting. So those are some of the things in her collection. So she's a very interesting person, has a lot of fun things about her. And just to, add, I think that in terms of like how Disney is expanding this universe, I feel like she has the most potential in a sense because of the aspects of the exploration of the sea. So,
see, Chris, this is where it's mind-boggling that they have this much of a backstory for something in a kids area where the kids are not going to know this backstory or know anything about this. And it's, the parents, as you mentioned, will just drop off the kids and they don't know that this is all interconnected or something. Maybe they'll do that and they'll go back to Florida or go back to Orlando and they'll go to Typhoon Lagoon and then they'll be like, oh, hey, that's that same character from the Oceaneer Lab. But something I did want to bring up real quick, I kind of butchered this even on our podcast because it's so long, but there is a sea mission statement that's listed at the cruise line as well as Mystic Manor. And I think it explains perfectly what Sea is, and I think it may help out maybe some of your listeners, but it's also tough to get through, so hear me out. It's the mission of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers is to collect, conserve, and curate valuable cultural and artistic artifacts from around the world and make them available to the public in an artistically pleasing and sensitive manner. It is furthermore the mission of the organization to equip and mount socio-cultural expeditions to discover, explore, chronicle, and protect the artistic achievements of human society, past, present, exalted, and forgotten. So it's a mouthful, But
You know, those children are really going to read that and understand everything it says.
tell their mom
I
and dad all
barely
about
get
it.
It resonates.
I know when the Magic was originally built in the Oceaneers lab, it's been updated since. They had a lot of artifacts around it. I'm not sure if they had a Scuttle Starflat. Did I say that right? I don't think that was one of them, but there was a lot of things placed around the Oceaneers lab that the kids could kind of look at. And to your point, Joel, too, it was like, I don't think that any of them really knew what it was. There's a picture of her hanging up there as well. And I remember actually seeing that. That is still there. It is definitely one of those things that they have the stuff around, but I'm not sure if it's still there, to be completely honest, if some of those artifacts are still there.
Well,
But
it was added in 2016, and I think some of those artifacts may be shown, I could be completely wrong, but on the attraction at Misadventure Falls in Typhoon Lagoon, I think
Okay.
that's where they show some of those props,
other
if
ones.
you will.
And it's interesting because she is actually the first sea member to have an attraction built specifically for her around her story stateside. So everything else, United States has been kind of retrofitted or added later after the fact. But Typhoon or Misadventure Falls was created and given that backstory. So that's the first U.S. attraction that has a distinctive sea connection, and she got it because she's amazing.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but she seemed like one of the few that was like actually not a scoundrel.
Yeah,
Not to call
she
her a
wasn't.
scoundrel.
Yeah, if any of you guys do any more reading on the sea members, there were very few of them that were not terrible human beings.
Nicely put, Matt.
Yeah, because I mean, like Joel said with their mission statement, everything sounds really uplifting and so much philanthropy involved, and everybody's just conserving. A lot of the members were not great people, and she's definitely one of the ones that was on the winning team.
The better side of things.
Yeah, she's one of the ones that didn't meet an untimely end or
Well, there you go.
disappear entirely.
Did she disappear?
Did she? But it wasn't because of I think she did, but it wasn't due to
She didn't mess with an idol. or
idol?
anything.
she didn't. Yeah, it wasn't a bad thing. It's just it's bad that she disappears, but
Wait
it
a
wasn't
minute.
malevolent.
Is Mystic Manor built around a sea character then?
Yes.
So
It's,
that would be probably like the marquee attraction featuring a sea character.
You could say that one, and then the first one, which was Tower of Terror in Tokyo Disney Sea. So that one is built around Harrison Hightower III, and it is all sea references as well. But I feel like they doubled down with Mystic Manor and bringing it front and center to you because it's talking about him collecting, Lord Henry Mystic is the main character. He collects all these trinkets and goods and artifacts and puts them on display for the visitor to come see. So, that's really what Society of Explorers and Adventurers is kind of all about. So,
Well, I was gonna say, and the difference between the two attractions, though, is how we were saying is you have Hightower, terrible person, and you have Henry Mystic, who is a genuinely good human being who is trying to help the world. And
I didn't know where you were going to go with that. I thought you were going to be like Henry Mystic, who's genuinely a monster.
No,
Terrible.
yeah, no.
Evil. I
No.
was like, okay, he's a good person. Okay.
Hightower is definitely the evil one of the two.
Okay. That's cool. I feel like those are two attractions, even though I'm stateside, that I've heard of and watched like POVs and been really curious about because they're just like over the top in terms of Imagineering. I also have, believe it or not, been on Misadventure Falls because I was there the summer it opened. And I think noteworthy about that is that it's like the first water ride in a Disney park with its own animatronic. They have a Duncan Parrot animatronic during the Lift Hill sequence that is, more than most water parks are doing with their storytelling.
And now you know that Duncan came from Captain Mary Oceaneer.
Yeah, I do not think I would have known that. I certainly would not have known that the Oceaneers Club needed this type or had this type of backstory.
yeah.
Because it literally just sounds like a name that like a cruise ship, executive would be like, what should we call the kids club? Oceaneers. Yeah, that's
exactly.
That's cool. Let's call it that. Meanwhile, the Imagineers are like, oh, you mean Mary Oceaneer? Famous sea captain? And it's like, okay, all right, well, that's fine. We'll do it. So that I think it's cool. I'm into it. Obviously, I love all this type of stuff.
Even inside Oceaneers lab, there's a newspaper article detailing the disappearance of Harrison Hightower III, as well as a captain's hat from another sea character. But it's just one of those things like, this is what we're saying where it's all interconnected, right? It's even though two different parks, and now we're talking the cruise line, and on the cruise line, there's something that hints at something that occurred over at Tokyo Disney Sea, right? So that's what's kind of cool about it and leads to so much.
Wait, you want to hear a Disney Cruise Line fun fact? So the lobby statue, the atrium statue of a Disney cruise ship is always an iconic thing that they put a lot of energy and attention into. So recently they just unveiled that Cinderella is going to be the lobby statue in the Wish. Mm-hmm. And they did it with a bunch of fanfare and a big, video that they put out there about it. But the sailor Mickey that is in the lobby of the Magic can be found in one other place in the world, and that is Tokyo Disney. That's basically a twin statue of that is there. So,
cool.
So there is a kinship between specifically that park and the Disney Cruise Line, because a lot of people say that the atrium statue is sort of like the heart of that particular ship. So it's kind of a big deal, and it's an unusual Mickey statue. It's not like you would recognize that Mickey from anywhere else. It's like Mickey wearing
like a rain outfit,
a rain outfit, like what you would imagine like people on the Deadliest Catch are wearing,
like the Gordon Fisherman.
Yeah, literally. And you can find that in Tokyo Disney. So, fun fact: there is a connection between. Yeah, there he is.
Oh, cool.
There's a connection between Tokyo Disney, and that doesn't have anything to do with sea.
But just the layers.
Yeah.
But it does show that like there are different layers of connection between the parks, and even these cruise ships are being built with input from the Imagineers. So storytelling is still driving everything.
Something I like to do on our podcast is always tout how I've been to Tokyo Disney Sea, just to annoy people. But so they have that at Cape Cod in the New York or the American waterfront section of Tokyo Disney Sea, and it's really cool because they're all ports of call at Disney Sea, and so it's at the port, and guess what's at the port? A giant ocean liner, right? Which makes perfect sense for it to be on a Disney cruise as well. So that is really cool. I never put that two and two together where, hey, this is at a port of call and it's on a Disney cruise line.
Right. And timing wise, Disney Sea was built in the mid 90s?
2001.
Oh, okay. So the lobby statue for the Magic would have been created before Tokyo Disney Sea, which is also cool because that's Disney Imagineering being like, here's this like random part of Disney that we're not even sure is going to be successful. And let's go ahead and take that and put an Easter egg in Tokyo Disney Sea. So I'm here for it.
And let's run with that storytelling. And just recently Disney Plus, and not to cut off talking about Sea whatsoever and what you guys did with your podcast, but everybody listening tonight, I really want to encourage you to go back to Off Harbor and Main's episode 21 and 22, the one you guys did on the backstory of all the different characters and how they are kind of interconnected. It's a great listen. But Disney Plus has come out, and they're going to come out with a new series from Disney Parks Universe. So kind of like your Marvel Cinematic Universe, except it's the Disney Parks Universe. And the first project is going to be based around the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. And I guess I have one question. Do you guys think it's going to work? And if it does, how do you see it trending? I kind of thought about like Indiana Jones, maybe the Jungle Cruise with The Rock, kind of storyline theming. But where do you see them taking it? Do you see it working?
I am so excited for this. So when we were recording our podcast, we were talking about how, they should do like a show. They should put it on Disney Plus. And then literally right after we post, like right after our episodes went up, then this was released, and we were all so excited, like, oh my God, did you see? So I mean, I really think that it's going to work. We have seen the stuff that they've been putting out for WandaVision was super popular, and Mandalorian. They've really been able to tell these really deep and intricate stories, and finding ways to put humor into them, and also make them super emotional. So I feel like if they go that route, they could really do something amazing with this. Kind of like what you said, I kind of have this like Indiana Jones like style vibe, or like a Jungle Cruise style, like kind of like, kind of jokey, but still like this deep layered story that has a lot of heart and emotion. I am so excited to see where they take this and where they go with it. I think it could be really, really exciting and add a lot to the parks as well.
Is it live action or animated?
I think it's supposed to be live action. Like, they haven't released too much information about it, but I think it's supposed to be live action.
It'll be interesting if they retcon those characters in the park to update them to match the actors playing those characters. So like if they replace the pictures of, I don't know, wherever you said there are
Harrison
pictures of them
Hightower or something.
Yeah, if they replaced it with the actors to try to sort of say like, no, this is what they looked like all along.
Well, I think we're going to see a lot of retconning, but I think we will potentially see in a better way. Like, let's think of like Pirates of the Caribbean, right? You had a popular attraction turned into a popular franchise movie, and then you get Captain Jack Sparrow comes into the attraction with, obviously debatable as that was maybe not a good decision or a great decision, depending who you are. But I think we can see that with this being very successful and bringing in their own IP that's kind of built around the theme parks anyway, a perfect fit into the theme park, and maybe even having a chance for us to get new attractions and themed areas and environments that aren't solely based off of popular IP that they have now. And I don't blame them for doing that. That's a whole nother story, and I'm sure we could do a whole podcast just on that alone. But that's something I'm really excited for, starting a show like this.
How about you, Matt?
I'm so sold.
I think it's going to be popular. Nowadays when you think about it, so many people are obsessed with Disney theme parks, even more so now than they used to be, especially with, everybody in pretty much almost everybody in SoCal had an annual pass, and Florida and all that stuff. I think just the sheer fact that if you try to tell people that this is taking place in the Disney theme parks, they're going to be all over it. Because I know so many people that I personally work with who, when I told them that they were doing that, oh, I want to watch that. I think just saying Disneyland and TV show, they're automatically going to be drawn to it. I think that's a perfect formula, and I think a lot of people are willing to see that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty stoked for it too. I think it's just like a perfect combination of everything that's happening in Disney right now. Like, there's so much originality to it. It's not copying something else. There's already an established foundation for it. Like, we talked about how there's so many different layers. There's so much that they can do with it. Like, I just really hope that they do take it as a serious project that they have. I would love to make sure that it's not too cheesy or campy like what they did with the Haunted Mansion, for example. But, just given the direction that we're seeing, everything like Beth said about Marvel and Star Wars, if they go in that direction, then I think they really have something here. And it's just really exciting in this time, now that we've talked about it. We kind of got all excited about hearing about all these characters, and then to hear the announcement really gets us even more excited. So, good stuff.
I think myself personally, I love that era for some reason. And I know it's like old Hollywood, like when you go to DCA or Hollywood Studios out in Walt Disney World, you've got this kind of the old Hollywood that maybe never really was or whatever, but I have a love for that time frame. So I think if you get the right people with the storytelling, they can have a lot of fun with it, telling the backstory of how, Mystic Manor came about and Albert and all the fun and the adventures that they had, and then kind of weaving them into some other different stories as well. So I'm with you guys too. I'm pretty excited for it. I hope they hit it out of the park just like they've been doing. I guess we got to kind of finish up and talk about a little bit more Disney Cruise Line, I guess. It sounds like, Joel, you're the only one that's been on a cruise, and it's been a while. So I put down all these things like your favorite ship, restaurant, and beverage. Well, you guys had some good beverages. Did they turn out okay tonight? I guess you made them. So.
Delicious.
They were
That's good.
excellent.
I was surprised with myself with this one. Actually, it came out really, really good.
He posted in the group chat, "Look, you guys, look at how pretty my drink turned out." It was. You should be proud.
Well, since Joel, you're the only one that's been on it, which ship did you go on, and where'd you guys sail to? Obviously, you went to Castaway Cay, so it was down to the Caribbean in the Bahamas.
Right. So it was Disney Magic, and it was just a 3-night, 4-day cruise. So it was really short. And this is we only did 4 days on land, 3 days on sea, right? It was one of those type of things back then that they were doing, I think, probably pretty heavily to get people to get on those Disney cruise lines, or the new Disney cruise line at that time. We had a great time, and that we went to Castaway Cay and just Nassau, and that was it. Obviously, if I was to do a Disney cruise line again, I would want to do a longer cruise. One that's I have my eyes on is the 7-night Northern Europe cruise from Dover, with something I don't know if they're going to continue to do that in the future, but it's something that I saw that I would love, because that goes to Dover, England, Norway, Sweden, Copenhagen, and Amsterdam. So I thought that would be something I would really enjoy, and being able to get off on some of those ports of call. And then, of course, it was the early days of the cruise line. So, of course, there was Animation Palette. Is that what it's called?
Animator's Palette. Yeah.
Animator's Palette. And I was actually, as a 13-year-old, I was kind of hoping for more, I guess. It's fantastic. And of course the cast members are amazing, and they change outfits for dessert course, and it's really cool how everything does turn from black and white to color. But I don't know, I guess I was hoping for more for some reason, maybe some more themed environment than just like kind of the black and white walls when I first walked in. But I understand what's happening and how it's changing colors and everything. I of course, now being a little older, I would probably prefer something like the Palo, or something that is more Art Deco, kind of like how the Disney Magic is, but just more of that classic ambiance restaurant feel than, say, like Animator's Palette. So that's something that I look forward to doing in the future, and some of those 21 and over areas of the ship too that I think would I love those new bar scenes that they've created, and with like not skylight, but like the faux background looking out into the cityscapes and stuff that they've done, that I think they have at some of the cruises that I would really enjoy.
Yeah, watch for Darth Vader. He's on the bridge of the Magic, and when they are in Barcelona. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So they put little touches in there.
Yeah.
How about the rest of you guys? You've got the Wonder comes over to San Diego, and so easy to pop down to San Diego and do a sailing. Have any of you guys ever thought about doing that?
So I'm going to be honest, I've never been on any cruise at all. And I've always wanted to. And I was kind of just starting to plan one. I was kind of like starting to look into everything once the pandemic hit. I was like, well, shoot, that's not going to happen right now. For me, myself, I don't want to go to San Diego. I don't want to go to Mexico, and I don't want to go to Alaska. I'm like, I want tropical all the way. So when I do start planning again, and it's a little bit intimidating for someone who's never done a cruise to try to like figure all that out. So
I'll help you.
Well, okay, good, because I really want to go, but like I just started looking at stuff, and I'm like, oh my, like as someone who just does, I'll go to Hawaii, and I know how to plan that, and I know how to plan theme parks, and I know how to plan like places on land, but I like have no clue how to do anything related to a cruise. So I will call you, and we'll figure it out.
If it's your first one ever, and you have reservations of like, will I be seasick or will I be claustrophobic or whatever, we sometimes recommend to people to do like a land and sea package type of vibe. So like, go to Disney World, have your like comfortable theme park time, and then follow it with like a 4-night, because 4 nights is enough to get your taste, but also you're not like on a ship for a week and then you get on it and you're like, wait, this
I
is
hate
not
this.
my jam.
So, okay, I'm on board. So once it's safe, I'm going to be contacting you and we'll figure it all out. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
Christy's the travel agent of the three of us, so she can actually help you book it, but I can give you tips.
You give me the tips. Okay.
That's my tip jar.
All right. Perfect.
How about you, Derek? Have you thought about it before?
All the time, just along with like dreaming about going to Disney World. I've always dreamt about going on a Disney cruise. I just never kind of ventured into it because I've, tested out some of the other cruise lines, but I'm just so intrigued. First of all, I'm super excited that they have a SoCal option. I just hope that they double down on being serious about like cruise ships in SoCal area, because I would love to be able to sail from here in LA or San Diego, and I think that there's a bunch of awesome ports that they can experience down in Mexico. I don't know where the current one's sailing to. Is that like Cabo or
Cabo, Ensenada, Puerto Vallarta.
Ensenada,
Yeah.
ones? Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as ships go, I think I would really love to visit the Disney Dream. That's the one with the Mickey statue, is it?
So the Disney Dream is
Donald.
Chris's favorite.
Donald, yeah.
It is Donald. Okay.
It's fine. It's fine. I don't. For those of you who don't listen to our podcast, I have a hate relationship with Donald.
No.
It's not like there's a real good reason. It's just that his only note is just to be like angry at everything, and I'm like, that's played out. We don't need all of our male
Show us some more
anthropomorphic
depth.
characters to be angry. Also,
fair.
I do have a bone to pick with whoever voices his like girlfriend, because all the other characters have whatever voice, but then she out of nowhere sounds like a 40-year-old woman at a cocktail bar, like having several drinks. And it's really confusing because Donald sounds like, wah, 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 and then all of a sudden his wife is like, oh, Donald. And I'm like, okay,
Although
there is no continuity here.
I do remember really, really old Disney cartoons where she sounded like Donald Duck. Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Or was that
That's what I mean. No continuity in the duck world, frankly.
touche.
And so I just don't have it in my heart. But I know a lot of people love the duck. And Admiral Donald, as he is known on the Disney Dream, is a beautiful statue. But then they really hit it out of the park with the Disney Fantasy by putting Mademoiselle Minnie, who's wearing like a ball gown type of vibe, or cocktail dress maybe. I think Steve and I know, I saw Steve smirking, so I know he was thinking it. It is totally possible that they will bring the Fantasy to the West Coast once they get the other ships. This is not verified. We don't have it on good authority. We just believe in our hearts.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Because here's the thing. They have a theme park industry out here. They have a huge base. And there are other cruise lines that sell successful year-round operations out of Long Beach. So the idea that Disney wouldn't have a year-round ship here that could also then go up north to do Alaska in the summers and do Mexico the rest of the year is just baffling. So I believe in my heart they will bring the Fantasy. And if they do, we can all have our inaugural crossover podcast sailing on the Fantasy.
Okay, I am in. I'll do that, yes.
That's a plan for sure.
Yeah, the Fantasy is definitely that's high on tops of most Disney Cruise Line fans that have sailed on it, because they kind of hit it out of the parks with the adults area. The theming in the bars is really cool. So, well, should I put you on the spot, Matt, and ask you if you want to go on a cruise?
I'm always down to go on a cruise. I'm not really a huge Mexico fan, so that wouldn't really be my destination. But if they were to bring the cruise lines over here, and like you were saying, maybe Alaska is still to this day probably my favorite vacation I've ever been on. That cruise was amazing. You always hear people say like, oh, well, Alaskan cruises are for like old people. No, that was like, I had the time of my life on that cruise, and I did it on a pretty good ship on that run. I'd like to maybe see how Disney does it, and I'd love to go to Alaska on Disney.
What ship did you do?
I did Celebrity.
Oh, they have really good.
Yeah.
They have really good Alaskan itineraries. Christie has done Celebrity ships, the Edge especially, which is their like newest marquee ship.
That's actually like on like I know it's not Disney Cruise Line, but the Celebrity Edge is one of like my bucket list ships. I really want to go on that ship.
So I'm obsessed with it because it has Captain Kate. And here's the thing. There are very few women captains besides Mary Oceaneer, as we learned tonight. And she is missing. So frankly,
the most important captain too.
Captain Minnie, which, a little late Disney, but I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. So the Celebrity Edge has a woman who's the captain of that ship. It's the newest ship. She has amazing TikTok, Instagram, social media content. So I highly recommend everyone to follow Captain Kate. So I would go on the Celebrity Edge in a heartbeat just so that I could maybe be in the same room as Captain Kate. I have like an intense, but also platonic and totally appropriate obsession with Captain Kate.
I have seen some of her stuff, and it is really good. And like you're saying, it seems like she'd be like a fun person to just be around.
Yeah, and she has one of those like hairless cats that lives on the ship with her. I'm just like, who is this, and how can we be friends?
That's awesome.
She sounds like she should be a member of C in some way.
She probably is. She's probably Mary Oceaneer's daughter.
She probably is. It's all connected, isn't it?
It's going.
Disney's gonna buy Celebrity.
Yeah.
Watch out for
their
the
fleet.
Watch out for the hairless cat animatronic on your next water ride.
Also, on the Celebrity Edge, they have this thing on the side that they call the magic carpet. So, like, it's clearly
it's
going
perfect.
to be soon to be owned by Disney. Yeah, I think the tie-in is obvious, and it's just a matter of time. I think nobody would. We're not the type of podcast that would say no other cruise line is acceptable or no other cruise line should be sailed on. In fact, all of us have sailed on other cruise lines, and we can think of positives for all of them. But knowing how much of a hardcore Disney fan you four are, I would say it's kind of a no-brainer to try Disney Cruise Line. The only barrier really with Disney Cruise Line is cost. They are truly a more expensive cruise line. But once you can sort of save up and afford a Disney cruise, I think just knowing what I know about you so far, it'll be like a defining vacation in your life. It is so fun.
Man, you're getting me pumped.
I know.
I'm ready. I'm like, when can I start planning?
I'm pumped. I've had 2 cruises canceled on me. Steve's had 2 or 3 canceled on him. Christy as well. So like, the pandemic has caused us to be so hungry for these cruises.
Yes,
I'm like,
yeah.
what do I need to do? Wear a bubble, wear a mask, wear 10 masks. I will do whatever you want. Just let me get on the ship.
Matt feels your pain.
Yeah, I had to rebook Disney World twice, and I had a cruise canceled in November. So
Oh, no.
Well, I don't know when Steve will put this episode out, but the president just announced that everybody should be eligible for the vaccine by May 1st. And I have never heard a more hopeful statement for cruising to come back online.
God. I am so excited.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think for the first time, I feel like very certain that we'll be cruising again by 2022. Whereas, like, even if you would have asked me a month ago, I would be like, I think so, maybe.
Yeah, fingers crossed, yeah.
Probably. But now I'm like, yeah, they'll get some test cruises out of the way this summer, maybe in the fall. I'm like, finally, I've always been saying from the day that the vaccine is fully available, I think cruising will start back up within like 6 months or so. So that puts us on track for like a late fall vibe.
Okay, I'm going to start looking at itineraries so I can get ready.
Gotta do it.
And when the Fantasy comes through the Panama Canal, we'll all meet down in San Diego. And I'm telling you, Ensenada, my wife and I did the 3-day on the Wonder Down that went to Ensenada, and you had 2 sea days, and we had a blast at Ensenada. And I was not excited at all about going to Ensenada because I've been to Cabo and PV a bunch, and we had a blast. We went out kayaking to this Bufadora, it's a blowhole, which was super fun. So
oh yeah, La Bufadora.
And then we had like the lady. There was a lady on the bus, and when we got done, she's like, "Ray, I'm gonna take you to the best fish tacos ever." And you're like, "Yeah, sure, right, whatever." But I'm telling you, those tacos were amazing. So. You can find some fun things in places that you're really not totally excited about going. We were excited to go on the cruise, but anyways, we'll leave it at that.
Joel, they have a Small World nursery for children over 6 months.
Yeah,
they can't even go on the ship if they're under 6 months. But once a baby reaches 6 months, there's a nursery for them. That's actually one of the only services on the ship for kids that you have to pay for. You have to have babysitters. And it's reasonably priced. I think it's like less than $10 an hour, or less than $8 an hour even. But Chris, you'd be mad at me for not doing my research before speaking. So it's some amount per hour. All the other kids services are included, but that's one where it's sort of like you have to book it ahead of time and be thoughtful. But we've had guests on our show with infants, and they've all said they would sail again even if they had infants. So
it's tough. I'm telling you right now, with knowing things are they're starting to reopen already next week, but with things reopening pretty quick here, it's hard because like, well, what do I do first? Especially with the newborns. But it's like, I mean, I just want to go to a restaurant, but I love baseball and getting out to Disneyland and the theme parks in Southern California, and then it's just trying to plan like, well, now the world is our oyster again. What do I do?
What do
so
we
much
do?
to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you for going to Touch of Disney?
I'm the only one who's going. So
I tried.
I will be there.
I tried hard.
Derek did try, but he did not make it in
I
time.
didn't succeed.
You
So-
missed their last
Salty
podcast, Chris.
about
They
it.
talked about it all on this where like Beth, like she just like logged on and got tickets right away and everybody else was out there for hours.
I did. I felt bad. It took me like maybe an hour and a half at max, and everyone else was like 5 hours. And I did feel a little bit guilty, but
You
just
don't
a little
feel
bit.
guilty. Just
No,
a little bit.
Well, I'm also going.
So when are you going?
Nice.
April 17th.
Okay, I'm going the day after you. So
Oh my gosh, I'll leave a note. I'll leave a
okay,
note in the heart.
it'll be like the C, and it'll be like a little decoded message.
Yeah, that's totally what I'll do. I'll hide it somewhere. You'll have to go find it. It'll be a whole thing.
You have to
Okay,
leave her some
I hope
clues,
you
though.
do because I'm gonna find it.
You have to do like a TikTok video, Chris, and leave her some clues in it or something like that. where
So
to find it.
I know we're just making a joke, but in high school, I did do this at Disney World with a friend of mine where
No, I'm in. If you hide it, give me some
all
clues.
right, I'm gonna hide
I'd
something.
be down to watch you guys pull this off. Actually.
Yeah,
Beth.
I think it'll be great. I mean, Touch of Disney is total tease. It's like we get to be near the attractions but not ride any of them.
Exactly.
I'm like cautious on this one. I think it'll be fun to be out in that world again, but I'm not trying to put a lot of expectations.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a lot. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm like prepping her. Okay, we are gonna go. We can't do the rides, but we're gonna walk around and see stuff and eat food. All she cares about is there popcorn? Yes, there will be popcorn. Okay, she's like, okay, I'm good.
Right. Yeah, and I went when they opened up Buena Vista Street just so I could get a churro and a corn dog.
I get it. Like sometimes you just need that like little bit of magic.
So that's my thing. Is that'll be next on my Disney list. So that's next on your Disney list, Beth. What about Derek and Matt? Do you have any Disney things coming up on the horizon in the middle of a pandemic? What does that look like for you?
Well, I'm actually going to Disney World May 2nd.
Amazing. So you got it to work out.
Yeah, so we booked it last May, and that didn't work. So then we pushed it to October, and then October was still kind of iffy, so we actually just went full circle and we went back to May. So
All right. Weather
And,
isn't too bad in May. Florida's kind of hit or miss
Yeah.
with the weather.
And I mean, I'm taking my mom. It's her first time. I know this isn't her ideal first time, but she's so adamant on going at this point that she's like, I don't care. She's like, we're going. I just want to go.
Where are you staying?
Caribbean Beach.
Oh, cool. So you'll be on the
Skyliner.
Skyliner.
Yeah, that was our main reason, because I stayed at Caribbean Beach before and I didn't really care for it, but that was before they did the whole refurbishment. And
Yeah, the renovated rooms are pretty well reviewed, and
I'm
the
really
Skyliner is great. As long as it's like working, it's great.
I'm vaccinated because of my work, so I've had both of them. So that's one less stress I have now going. Is I
Right.
don't, other than still wearing the mask and everything, I don't feel like I'm going to be stressing about that as much anymore. So that's definitely a relief. So is everybody else that's going with me. So
Amazing. Yeah, I feel like that will be what lots of us are saying soon. Once it's available for everyone, it'll be like, especially when the CDC released that thing that was like, you can hang out again. I was like, oh my
Yes.
goodness, I will volunteer to give people their vaccines. What
I
do
did. I
do?
signed up for that. I'm like, okay, tell me when I can volunteer. I will post people. I will check people in. Let me know.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. We can hang out in our homes with each other.
mhm.
What is this? Yeah, so I'm feeling more hopeful. I too am also in a group that is able to get vaccinated as a foster parent. So I'm like wanting everyone to be able to go back to the parks and hang out again. But this is honestly the first time in months that I have felt really hopeful and optimistic about.
Yes,
Disneyland's reopening. The cruises are going to come back. It's going to work out. So I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Derek, do you have any fun Disney things or moderate Disney things or just Disney things?
Well, aside from my fake Taste of Disney tickets that I got, I got nothing in the immediate future, but I am hell-bent on getting tickets to Disney once they finally open, which I guess is going to be pretty soon now, maybe end of April-ish, so to speak. So, I mean, the whole idea of going to Disney with a 15% capacity sounds like amazing. So if that's really how it's going to be, I'm going to be up at midnight or whenever these tickets go on sale and clicking away. And that's going to be my first experience. I mean, it's been over a year, for West Coast Disney people, especially, we're itching to get back out there and, take our photos and share some content. It's been torture. I mean, it's great seeing everybody enjoying Disney World, but we need a fix back here at home on the West Coast. So I'm really looking forward to that time. And hopefully, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to be here before we know it. So
yeah, we don't even get D23 this summer.
I know. So sad.
We don't get to sleep on that concrete floor just to get some posters.
All of us outside of California are going to be staring down going, why didn't I move to California? As you guys are in there with 15% capacity. I love it. So, well, as we kind of finish up tonight, guys, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us about your guys' podcast. Thank you for the amazing shows that you guys are putting out. And once again, if you haven't listened to it, go check out their amazing podcast, Off Harbor in Maine, and especially episode 21 and 22 with all the background on the sea characters, the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. And before we get out of here, how can people connect with you guys?
Well, you can always find us. It's on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle for the show is @OffHarbor, so pretty easy to find. And I'm on Twitter as @Tangaroa Joel.
And I'm on both Twitter and Instagram @PixieDustVibes.
I'm on Twitter on @Esplanerd.
And I'm on Twitter as ST1401 to Endor. And on Instagram, I am Lightspeed to Endor.
I'm seeing a Star Wars connection there that I did not I did not put together. I love it. So Chris is our resident Star Wars expert too. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for coming on. Super fun talking to you. And I know we're going to connect between now and then, but once the fantasy makes it out to
Long Beach.
Long Beach. I was going to say San Diego, but maybe Long Beach is the better place. But we'll spend a couple of days at Disneyland and hopefully go on that sail on the beautiful fantasy. So thanks for coming on. All the best to you. And we look forward to talking to you soon and maybe seeing you down in the parks at Disneyland.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having us, guys. This was a blast.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, that's going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Beth, Joel, Derek, and Matt, all of you guys for coming on and helping us out with a look back at where the Society of Adventurers and Explorers came from and kind of the backstory of the Oceaneers clubs on both the Magic and the Wonder, and Captain Mary Oceaneer. Just a great group of friends over there. They're super fun to interact with and talk with on Twitter. And also, you can find their podcast, Off Harbor in Maine, wherever podcasts can be found, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Go over there and take a listen. I highly encourage it. Just a lot of fun that they put together in their shows each time they come out. Well, if you've enjoyed this show and our other shows, we sure would appreciate it if you'd pass it on to friends, to others who may think that they would love to get some Disney Cruise Line contact around Disney and Adventures by Disney and kind of the backstories around all three of those products. We sure would appreciate it if you'd pass it on. Also, if you have time, leaving an iTunes review really helps us get the show known a little bit better in the cruising and Disney community. We sure do appreciate that. Also, if you'd like to help support the show, you can do so via our Patreon program. You can go to patreon.com/DCL podcast and find out all the information there. This show is brought to you each and every week by our Patreon supporters. We appreciate each and every one of you for helping us bring it out each week for you guys. So between now and our next show, we're kind of in the middle of spring break for a lot of people. If you're heading out on that spring break somewhere, on behalf of myself, Steve, Christy, and Chris, we want to wish you to travel safe, be well, enjoy the time with each other, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.